So you probably will just need to accept it when it comes up. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the 3 speakers we've got today who've generously agreed to talk about projects they're involved in are Summer Grundy from the Marine Biological Association, Stuart Payton from the Natural History Consortium, and Jess Wardlaw from the Natural History Museum. So they'll introduce themselves, explain a bit more about themselves. So Summer, you're the first to go. So if you want to kind of share your screen and start introducing yourself. Thank you.
So hopefully in a second you'll be able to see my screen. Is that okay for everyone?
Yep, I can see it. I've got see a few thumbs up as well. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So as Giselle was saying, I'm Summer Grundy. So I'm from the data team within the MBA. So specifically, I'm a data manager, so I quite often deal with citizen science data. So the MBA being the Marine Biological Association. So I'm just going to be giving a brief background on history on the MBA in citizen science before talking about our past, ongoing and upcoming iNaturalist events. So the MBA has an extensive history in citizen science and outreach projects. For example, one of our earliest events dating back to the early 1900s, when the Easter Field class would meet at the shore at low tide and intertwine creative writing and illustration with the natural marine environment. So you can see them meeting up on the photo to the right, and they're having a lovely time with picnic baskets, the best kind of event. But slightly more recent and established in 1998 was Marlin, the Marine Life Information Network, who championed citizen science through its education sub-programme and provided a collation point for marine biological records to the NBN, National Biodiversity Network. Many of the MBA's citizen science projects and initiatives actually springboarded off of Marlin and the legacy it created. So supporting the collection and collation of marine biological data was originally also in the remit of Marlin through the Seabed Data Access sub-programme. But with increasing importance and focus on data management, the MBA launched a dedicated data team in 2005 with the accreditation of DASH as a UK archive and centre of excellence for marine biological data activities. And Marlin now primarily focuses on marine sensitivity assessments. So some of our longer term citizen science projects included Sure Thing, which is now ended, but ran from 2006 to 2021, which included specific methodologies such as transect and timed searches. The Sea Life Survey, which started in the early 2000s, which is a more generic project to encourage users to submit marine species records. This is currently taking a break whilst plans are being put into place to move over to an iNaturalist project. And then, of course, last but not least, we have our Bioblitz events, which started in 2009 and is still ongoing, which I'm going to go into a bit more detail about in a second. So just to give you a bit of background, the MBA Data Team is an externally resourced service to the UK marine community. We provide tools and services to support the archival management and publication of marine biodiversity data in open standards and formats. So core funding comes from DEFRA, the Scottish Government and MEDIN, and enables the delivery of DASH, the archive for marine species and habitats data within the UK. We operate as the UK node of the Global Ocean Biodiversity Information System. We're a marine lead for the UK node of iNaturalist and the lead stakeholder in engagement activities for the biological component of the European Marine Observation and Data Network. So the MBA continuously running events and projects to encourage the general public to learn and engage with the marine environment, and events to do so are mostly catalysed currently in our education department. So the iNaturalist app, we found, because of the AI technology and ease of use, has been instrumental in its use case for citizen scientists. So essentially, you don't have to be an expert in a specific taxonomy to contribute towards the scientific community. So just to go over some of our past iNaturalist projects, these include teacher and school engagement, where groups are taken out on marine surveys, such as rock pooling, to identify any species in the area and record using the app, and maybe be shown a few survey events. Another example includes the Life Around the Time and Tide Bells project in 2020 as a space to collect community species observations around a focal point. In this case, it was artworks, and connect geographically separated but artistically connected spaces. We have ran various Bioblitz events as well, where the idea is to count as many species as possible within a certain space and time, where iNaturalist has contributed in making these events extremely successful. Generally, many different survey types are organised, such as snorkeling and nighttime rock pooling, to engage people and try and extend our species search to as many different environment types as possible. So during the pandemic, actually, we did also run a virtual Bioblitz using the iNaturalist platform, which encouraged a good number of people to get out and get involved in recording. So several people actually hadn't used iNaturalist before, so it was a really good gateway event to get people introduced to the platform. So just to go into a bit more detail regarding a specific past project using iNaturalist. So in 2019, in collaboration with the Devon Wildlife Trust, we ran a Bioblitz in Wembury on the South Devon coast. So this event was a huge success, brought together a multitude of people from different backgrounds to record as much as possible in 2 days. So iNaturalist was one of the recording schemes used during this event, which contributed 2,472 observations from 108 different observers, and this totaled 737 different species recorded on iNaturalist alone, out of the total 1,181 species recorded throughout the whole event. So iNaturalist contributed such a significant proportion of these, which was fantastic. So one of our ongoing projects is the Crabwatch EU. So initially funded via Sea Change and M3 Plus projects through EU Horizons 2020, Crabwatch was launched in 2017 and specifically focuses on the knowledge of changing distribution of native and non-native crabs within Europe, as well as information to support environmental management. So essentially an initiative to try and get everyone and anyone recording crabs they see to build up this bigger picture within Europe. And because this is based in Europe, we required a platform with wider interoperability, which iNaturalist provided, which was great. So this initiative has been extremely successful, with over 19,000 observations made and 148 species recorded on the iNaturalist project alone. So another thing to mention is the MBA's role in maintaining the marine part of Great Britain non-native species information portal, which involves verification of non-native species records in iRecord, which of course will soon include those received through iNaturalist later on in the pipeline. And then one of the projects on the horizon is a mini Plymouth Bioblitz. So on the 17th of June, leading to the early hours of the morning on the 18th of June, we'll be hosting a mini Bioblitz in Mountbatten, which is a beautiful rocky shore just east of central Plymouth, where iNaturalist will be used and a project will be created. So that's something to really look forward to. And then a very special event also on the horizon is the Londy Bioblitz. Starting on the 14th of July, the MBA are going to assist in the data side for the first Bioblitz ever to be held on Londy, and it's the start of the Londy Marine Festival, so it's going to be taking place in the first week of that festival. So Londy, for anyone that doesn't know, is an absolutely beautiful island just off the north coast of Devon, and the waters surrounding Londy are marine protected area, where the first protection for this area started back in 1973 as a voluntary marine nature reserve. So as you can imagine, this is a really pristine, beautiful place, and we're really lucky to be holding a Bioblitz here. It'll also be really interesting as well. So just to introduce the Rockpool Project, which is a fantastic social enterprise. They're very active and engaged with the general public in leading expert-led Rockpool activities around Cornwall and Devon. As part of Blue Recovery, a new project for people living in Falmouth and Plymouth, funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund, the MBA will be working with the Rockpool Project to develop an automated process for the ingestion of species records from the project into iRecord, hopefully with a post-verification two-way system. And then as a pilot study alongside this, the Rockpool Project will be trialling the use of iNaturalist by creating projects and encouraging citizen scientists to directly record species through the iNaturalist app whilst on events organised by the enterprise. So this trial will explore the feasibility of using iNaturalist on a more regular basis for instant species recording during the Rockpool Project events, and scope out potential partnerships and developments for the future. So that's very exciting. So just going to talk a little bit about integration with downstream data aggregators. So as the UK node of OBIS, the MBA Data Team provides access to data aggregators in the EU and globally. We're working with eModNet and OBIS communities to ensure data collected through citizen science platforms can be integrated into the global data landscape. Due to the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, there's increased focus on ensuring that additional data, including citizen science data, can be integrated in essential ocean variables to provide better management and governance of the world's oceans. The MBA is a partner in Marine Life 2030, a UN Decade programme, working to improve and streamline data flow. So just to give you a general idea of biodiversity data flow in the UK, I'm sort of focusing on Dash's role here. So if you start at the bottom, so obviously we get sort of recorders and commissioned research, which go out and collect data. So I record an iNaturalistUK, being involved in sort of the recorder side and the sort of recording schemes. So from here, data will go to Dash and NBN. So Dash's focus being mainly marine and NBN's focus being general biodiversity. So from Dash, we publish data through the MEDIN portal, Marine Environmental Data and Information Network, for anyone that doesn't know. And then from Dash also, we will share marine data sets with OBIS and EuroBIS. And from here, this will go to eModNet Biology. And then all data sets also get shared with NBN, the National Biodiversity Network. And NBN share their marine and mixed or part marine data sets with us. And then from NBN, this goes to GBIF. So through these initial schemes, such as iNaturalist, and from Dash and NBN, data sets end up being shared with global aggregators, contributing to global species and biotope distributions knowledge. So there's more than one fish in the sea, and that's okay. There are various recording schemes and platforms out there, but each with their own specific niche and communities. For example, iNaturalist is convenient for opportunistic sightings or planned surveys where your phone is easily reachable, whereas SeaSearch, for example, is more adapted for expert sightings during dive events. But all with the same common values to collect high quality data and get people engaging with the natural environment. And with continued engagement and teamwork between all of us, we can continue on this path. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Summer. That's a great introduction of what MBA are doing, and also how much data is just being collected, and also how it can flow through. So sort of getting people involved very initially, you know, their sighting might actually have a significant impact on our knowledge sort of further down the line. Has anyone got any questions they want to ask Summer at this time? No? Silence? Well, there might be some more problems. Jamie, I don't know if you want to switch your camera off, because you're very welcome to keep it on, but that's fine. So thank you, Summer. So the next person then is
sorry, there's a hand up, Giselle. Sorry, yep. from John Hepburn. John, go ahead if you want to ask a question.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I run an iNat area project as part of the Wembury Marine Conservation Area Advisory Group. So we collect any iNaturalist sightings within the area. And we've recently come across a problem where the Marine Centre at Wembury was running a shore search event. That's putting stuff in through iRecord, I think, through the wildlife trusts, and I've put my sightings in on iNaturalist, and it seems to be causing problems for those who are verifying sightings. And I'd quite like to keep my project going, and the Wildlife Trust would quite like to keep their projects running. And notwithstanding Summer's diagram showing how all this lot gets integrated, it does look as though it's not getting terribly well integrated. Is it?
So I'll go over this one, but obviously, Giselle, you just need to let me know if I've got this wrong here. So at the moment, there isn't this link between iRecord and iNaturalist, but there soon is going to be. So soon, soon all records are going to flow from iNaturalist through to iRecord, and so eventually it will all end up in the same place. Yeah, so it's a little bit separated at the moment, but it's not going to be. And it is slightly complicated when you've got different projects in different places. But the point of these sort of data aggregators further down the line is that everything eventually ends up in the same place anyway, and can be viewed and analysed based on location. Did that sort of clear things up, John? Yeah,
and will it solve the problem of sort of multiple records being taken as multiple records, where in fact they're multiple records of the same thing?
Do you mean duplication? So the same sighting being made? So that's really hard to govern. Again, I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on this. Like, it's really hard to govern. So it's more up to sort of the individuals and the organisation to ensure that either it's being noted somewhere on the record, that it's also been, for example, put on iRecord, and this is the ID of it. So later down the line, someone can actually remove that duplicate record, or it's recommended that only one platform is used, because if you were to put it on iNaturalist and iRecord or on a few different platforms, there's no way to join them unless you're specifically noting that down. So I'd recommend to anyone to use one platform, preferably. Yeah.
But if it goes in on iRecord at the moment, it won't get onto iNaturalist.
Yes, as far as I'm aware. Giselle, I don't know if you want to.
So what is happening with records being used on iNaturalist, if they meet certain criteria such as research grade of the license conditions and a couple of other things, they're being pulled through onto iRecord and going through the iRecord verifying system, and therefore onward sharing to the appropriate place. And there is work separately being looked at about how to deal with duplicates on the MBA Atlas, which is a separate project and something that I think all the different data aggregators are aware of, how to deal with duplicates, or how to look at how to manage those duplicates. So does
it help then if I put a note in the notes bit on an iNat observation?
It's still worth making those notes, because the information there is retained. I think I'm pretty without sorry, I need Martin, I don't know whether he's on the call, to confirm whether the notes element is taken through or not, or how that's done to record. But by having it there, if a verifier wants to go back to the original record, and also when it ends up on the MBN Atlas, there will be a link to the iNat record, so you can go to find that. There isn't, Martin, great, perhaps expand. There isn't the reversal from iRecord to move data from iRecord onto iNaturalist. So that we do say is just use one platform to record. So if you recorded it in one place, that's fine, and it will make its way through. And you may decide on different circumstances or different projects or your different species, you might have a preference which one to use, and that's fine. It's whatever works for you or your recording. Martin, then did you want to expand on?
Yeah, I was just going to say pretty much the same as you've just said at the end there, Giselle. So as things stand, any record that goes through onto iNaturalist, and as Giselle said, as long as it meets those minimum criteria of the research grade and so on, it will come, and it already is coming through to iRecord. So that link has been in place for some months now. We're not able to send iRecord records back into iNaturalist, so the flow does not go that way, but anything put into iNaturalist does come through to iRecord, and as we've been saying, it then becomes available for other people to use from there. And yes, and just to emphasize, if possible, it's better not to put the same record into iRecord and into iNaturalist. You can choose which one you want to use, but ideally it would be preferable not to do both. But in the end, when it comes to analysing the data, I think most of the organisations that analyse data will run checks to strip out duplicates at the analysis stage. So it's not always a particularly big issue that we get records duplicated. And I suppose the other message that often gets said on these occasions is that it's better to have the record twice than not at all. So it's always good to get the records coming in. So yeah, I think that's, but I've probably just said pretty much the same as Giselle was saying anyway.
Thanks, Martin. Does that help, John, with your query?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I'll carry on putting notes on mine and tell anyone else I know that does use iNaturalist to do the same.
Wonderful.
Because we could be having triplication and quadruplication of records, because people do like their own records being on iNat. It gives you bragging rights and things like that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, John. Okay, Stuart, would you like to talk more about the Natural History Consortium and City Nature Challenge?
Yeah, of course. Hello. I'm just going to check if my screen share. There we go. Sorry, I'm very much a Zoom person through and through. So whenever I use Teams, I always forget how to use even the most basic tools. Is that now? Oh, it's got rid of a load of pictures. Sorry, I'm going to just screen share like this if that's okay, just because it's a few of the pictures have vanished when I go onto presenter mode. Hi, I'm Stu from the Natural History Consortium. We are a consortium of 14 member organisations, including all of these organisations at the bottom of the screen here. And we're based down in Bristol. But we have reach throughout of our projects of kind of national reach, as well as local and regional as well. The three main projects that we work on are the Festival of Nature, the UK Bioblitz Network, and the Communicate Conference, which, just looking through some people in the call, I think we must have touched base with a lot of people through one of these three projects in the past. And I'm here today to talk about City Nature Challenge. Do let me know if these screens aren't moving through the slides. City Nature Challenge is a global competition, or was a competition until very recently, across cities across the whole of the world, and it started between two different cities in Los Angeles and I always forget the other city that it was competing against, but basically two UK.
San Francisco.
Thank you, San Francisco. Thanks, Giselle. where they were basically finding that the Bioblitz model worked quite well for them, but they were getting feedback that it was not, it meant that they had people to go to one certain space to take part in a Bioblitz. And they trialed this thing, which was just opening up the whole city to a Bioblitz in both regions. It was a huge success where they found that actually they got loads more engagement than they had in the past with citizen science and biological recording, and so repeated the model in the following years, trying to get the other US cities involved. Up to 50 US cities took part the next year. Again, such a success, they thought they'd open it up across the whole of the world, which from there they found that even more cities are taking part, and part of the reason I'm on this call today is to really bang the drum for people taking part this year, but also so that more cities in the UK sign up in 2023. What it is in principle is very similar to a Bioblitz using iNaturalist, but the regions are just that much bigger, really. So this year it takes place, like the collection part, using iNaturalist between April 29th to May the 2nd. The bank holiday weekend, going out, recording as much wildlife as possible using iNaturalist, and that going through all the data pathways, which has already been discussed this afternoon, and then an identification stage as well, where because so many people are out recording over that time, making sure that that data is actually useful over a time period. The way that it's worked historically in the terms of the competition element is that each of the cities taking part goes onto a leaderboard. This year, sorry, that's a slide from last year. This year there's over 400 cities taking part again, and you can kind of see from each of the categories on iNaturalist as to where each of your city region is in that competition. So the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, the competition angle has been removed, and that's partly because of it felt very insensitive, kind of comparing cities at a time when everyone was under extreme pressure. And again, in 2022, there's not a competition element, but it's a really good way of engaging people with biological recording, especially we found in Bristol, kind of sticking one eye to people in London, for example, or I know that Andy from Birmingham's on the call today, like Birmingham in the UK versus Birmingham in America, that kind of thing as well. So the reason City Nature Challenge works so well, we found, is that it is a really good focus for people using iNaturalist and getting it as a taster session involved in biological recording. As it's very minimal effort that people can basically download the app and then use it throughout the year, but it's a good introduction.
Stuart, sorry to interrupt. I think the slides aren't moving on.
Are they not?
I'm not sure if that's the same for other people.
I am so sorry, guys.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Let me try that again, eh? So hopefully this works. Does that currently have a green slide with dates on? Is that working?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Okay, awesome. And this is now a white slide that says, what's your City Nature Challenge? iNaturalist.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so last year in 2021, there were 400 city regions on all 6 continents. I know in the past they've tried to get an Antarctic research base to take part as well to bring that up to the 7 continents. But I don't know if that's happening again this year. Haven't looked into it. But it is really a global competition, and it's a challenge rather, and it is quite amazing just how many people kind of take part and how many observations are made over just 4 days. You can see here the kind of stats that took part. That should say 14 cities took part in the UK. And how we've done it the last few years is a bit of a UK collaboration over the 14 days. Over the 4 days. There's currently this year 14 cities taking part, and there was 14 last year as well. And due to the pandemic as well, we opened it up to not just being in, although there were specific city regions taking part, opening it up to the whole of the UK so that the messaging could be wherever you are in the UK, and especially during like the first lockdown, for example, when these dates fell, it was a good excuse to be out if you are going for one daily walk today, or you know, doing a bit of exercise, take your phone with you and just take a little closer look at nature as well. So that's the same as this year. We've created a UK map, and I'm just kind of keen to see what's kind of popping up on iNaturalist over those 4 days, and it'll be a 4-day time period when lots of people are looking at iNaturalist, and be shouting about it on social media as well. So the city region's taking part this year, I kind of listed at the bottom there, and it's interesting really, I think ever since its inception with places like Los Angeles, which is, their map is about half of Wales. So when it's City Nature Challenge, quotation fingers really, because places such as where we are in Bristol and Bath, it is 2 cities with 1 map, and places like Brighton and the Eastern Downs, it's an entire kind of region, or Northeast England, that kind of thing. So if you are looking to take part next year and signing up for the International Challenge, it's well worth being ambitious with the size of that. But likewise, you know, there's smaller regions also taking part as well. This is just to kind of show how down in Bristol and Bath, we run the local one as well, just kind of the map of what showed up last year. And the other reason I thought I'd just kind of bring up the local element here in Bristol and Bath is how we're linking back the iNaturalist data this year, is that we're using this in conjunction with Bristol's ecological emergency, and that using City Nature Challenge as a kicking off point to launch our biodiversity index, getting citizens to download iNaturalist so that that data will be used to kind of prove what nature there is in Bristol, so that we can start kind of working towards the goals of the ecological emergency. That's about it really. I thought I'll copy these links into the chat as well, but we've got the link at the top there is the registration for 2023. So if you're a city, region, or an organisation who'd like to see your city on taking part in the international challenge on that leaderboard next year, it's well worth signing up now so that you kind of get the emails through. There's the UK website. If there's anything you'd like to add to that, please let us know. And then we've also got a national marketing pack as well. I'm very much aware that you're as much an expert on this as I am. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Thanks, Stuart. No, just obviously please join in. We have got, even if you're not living in an area which is taking part, there is a global project to collate data as well, which you can join, which I might try and find the link, or if Stuart can find the link during the next session. So to make your data count, because it's all going to end up coming through, as we've said, the data routes, and it's a great way of interacting with people. And maybe if you're in an area that isn't taking part but want to be, if you kind of also saying this, hopefully Stuart's right, Natural History Consortium, no, because it may well be if there's someone you don't know from that area as well, and he gets 2 emails from the same area, might be able to link you up. So and it runs in different ways. I'm the lead for Nottingham City, and we're very much keeping it as a city boundary, and we're a volunteer group running that. But there's, as say Stuart's alluded to, there's big huge areas which the local record centres are involved in, or RSPB or the Wildlife Trust. So it is worth sort of getting in touch if you want to be involved. So are there any general questions to ask of Stuart? Can't see any hands up, but please shout. There'll still be time at the end if no, everyone happy? Mandy, can't see anything either.
No, nothing showing.
Yeah,
oh, Victoria wants the post to the media pack posting in the chat, please, Stu.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm just trying to locate the chat. That's again not a Teams native. Okay. I will find it and send it through.
Yeah. If not, we'll make sure everyone gets copies of the links after the meeting as well, Stuart. So brilliant, thank you. Okay, Jess, you're up now from Natural History Museum.
Hello, let me find presentation again, and I will quickly apologise that I have been tweaking the beginning of my presentation whilst we've been meeting, so apologies if it's not so smooth. But I I'm Jess Wardlaw. I'm Citizen Science Programme Developer at the Natural History Museum in London. And I'm here to tell you a bit about how we've been using iNaturalist to engage new audiences in the national programme of the Urban Nature Project. So I'm going to give you a quick whistle-stop zoom down through our community science programme, the Urban Nature Project that is across departments in the museum, a bit about the national programme and its aims as part of Urban Nature Project, and then focusing on the two seasonal monitoring campaigns that we've run as part of that. So the community science programmes existed at the museum for, I think, and Chris will probably correct me now, but about 15 years. And our strategic goal this year is embedding and demonstrating best practice in all aspects of citizen science to deliver an innovative programme that achieves high impact outcomes for science research, the people who take part and the planet. And we've got 4 different strands of work there, but widening our audience is one of the biggest ones for us, and one opening it out to the widest possible audience is a key part of our strategy, and iNaturalist is very much at the centre of that. So just a few examples of some of our previous projects. We've led the City Nature Challenge for London, you've just been hearing about for the last few years. With a few partners, we've run everything from Zooniverse projects like Project Plumage. We've had field, we've got long-term monitoring projects in the field like Big Seaweed Search, Microverse, which was very much schools focused and learning focused, where we recruited students to take swabs of walls of their school to find out what microbes were living on them, and all kinds of different things like that. So different scales of projects, taxonomic groups, audiences and partnerships. And we've been working through this kind of idea of tiers of participation in community science. Through the years, we've encompassed everything in those projects, from crowdsourcing, where you're engaging a very, very large number of people in the most simple of tasks to contribute with very quick entry-level activities, to contributory projects like the iNaturalist projects, collaborative projects where the citizen scientists are contributing to the, collaborating with the scientists on the project with their own scientific knowledge and skills. And they're involved at different parts of the process, all the way through to co-designed projects, which we're only just dabbling with as part of the Urban Nature Project coming to now. So Urban Nature Project is one of the museum's key strategic focuses for the next few years, because urban nature is more important than ever. I've got a few stats for you there about the importance of urban biodiversity, and it just seems to make sense that with so many people living in urban areas, that most people are interacting with nature in cities, and we have to protect them. People are going to continue to live in cities, and the biodiversity in them is incredibly important. I mean, why else would we have a City Nature Challenge? I think there is a really a push for a focus on urban biodiversity worldwide at the moment because of that, and the museum is very much contributing to that. And how are we contributing to that? Through Urban Nature Project. We're developing evidence and agency for people to connect with and restore nature in the UK's urban spaces. So if you go to the museum at the moment, you'll see that the 5-acre gardens is being transformed into a conservation and awareness area for where visitors will come up through from the tube tunnel. So normally you go up some steps, I think, from South Kensington tube station, but there's going to be a ramp now that's going to take you straight into the gardens. So that's quite a major part of the project. Kickstarting an urban nature movement, as I said, across the UK, but also there's an element of developing new scientific tools, skills and networks that are needed to restore urban nature. And this is where the national programme comes into the Urban Nature Project. And the Explore Urban Nature is the name of the national programme, part of Urban Nature Project. I know there's a lot of urban nature in all these names, but bear with me. Explore Urban Nature, which aims to support a new generation of advocates for the planet, which is right core to the museum's strategy at the moment, dedicated to studying and protecting urban nature and working together to create positive change. And we're doing that by connecting a broader audience to the natural world, building the scientific skills needed to understand the natural world, and enhancing and supporting urban biodiversity to be protected through scientific evidence. And we're engaging, very importantly, with young people to help them feel more confident and increase their skills in forming scientific questions for citizen science and making and recording their own observations to address their own questions that they have. And this is why I'm saying this is where we're starting to move into the co-designed citizen science through Urban Nature Project and a schools initiative where teachers are going to support their students to submit their own scientific questions that we will investigate. And so here are some of our partners, partner museums across the country that are involved in Urban Nature Project. Some of them are also doing City Nature Challenge, I notice. Yeah, but you can see we've got a national reach here. The national programme is essentially activities outside of London for the museum. And citizen science is one of the aspects that the national programme is delivering. And we've got different parts to that. I think of it as actually two separate parts at the moment. We've got the seasonal nature trackers, which I'm going to come on to, but also these mass citizen science projects that are going to come out of the schools programme and the students' scientific questions that they submit. There'll be a few bioblitzes, and I've shown you the escalator model that we're working to with that. So I'm going to step back a bit to the seasonal nature trackers now, which is why I'm here to present to you. I know I've got Ben and Imogen in the audience. Hi, Ben and Imogen, who have supported me on this. So the seasonal nature trackers is really trying to engage anybody to contribute to a project focused on specific species for a limited amount of time. So in these cases, it was a fortnight for the 2 campaigns we've run so far. And we chose species, first of all, that could be identified in photos, which is very important in iNaturalist. Secondly, they had to be of scientific interest. That was really important to us because we wanted there to be a scientific purpose to the project, because through some of the research we've been doing, we've seen how important that scientific purpose is to the outcomes for participants in our projects. Their learning outcomes are far more advanced than if they're not aware that there is science behind the project. So very key for us to have a scientific interest. So we've been engaging the recording schemes with these seasonal nature trackers. We wanted a balance of species really that were easy enough to find, but also rarer or under-recorded, so that there would be a scientific interest in the data collected, and also they should be seasonally appropriate. So the first campaign we run was Fat Spider Fortnight back in September. And if I'm honest, I was blown away at how many people took part and submitted photos of fat spiders in that fortnight. We had over 670 people and over 1,000 and over 1,250 observations. And this was in collaboration with Tylen Berry. So we got all of his 11 target species observed. At least 10 new geographic ranges were established, which are new areas where a species has never been recorded before. And Laura Soul, who's on the call, she is a colleague in the engagement group from the national programme, who has done some analysis on the data and found that we reckon about 150 observers had never been onto iNaturalist before, taking part in Fat Spider Fortnight. So that was a big win for us, given our goal to introduce more people to citizen science. And one of the ways in which we did this was through social media. So alongside the iNaturalist project, we would encouraging people more generally on the museum's Twitter account, Instagram account, Facebook, you name it, all the social media, just to try and to submit their photos of spiders during the fortnight. And there was a bit of a competition to find the fattest spider. And there's your winner, who ate all the flies. There's the one that we decided won the competition for the fattest spider. And there's some figures there on our social media insights. And part of, and something we tried to do, perhaps not so successfully with fat spiders, was to point people who posted their photos on social media to iNaturalist, the iNaturalist project. But with no actual way of knowing whether that actually happened in the data. And the second project was Slime Search, which we ran in February 14th, I think, to the 26th, 11th to the 26th. Ben and Imogen on the call helped us select 10 species, well, they did select 10 species for us, 5 slugs and 5 snails, each paired with a similar looking but rarer species, so that again people had a chance of finding them, but also there might be some rarer ones that that would be of more scientific interest. In terms of observations, that was a bit more disappointing, because you'll probably remember I've put the picture there from Wikipedia of what the sky was looking like over the UK on the 17th of February. It was right smack bang in the middle of Storm Eunice. So we did end up extending the project by a week just to give slightly more opportunity for people to participate. But even with that, we couldn't match fat spiders for the level of engagement. And I think it was just a factor at the time that, I mean, we looked at the iNaturalist records, and recording was not happening at that time, regardless of the species. And people, we spent ages looking for slugs and snails, and they just weren't wanting to come out in the storms either. So yeah, that's a massive lesson learned for next time, that you can't control the weather. We have really enjoyed working directly with the recording schemes. who are enthused about iNaturalist and to kind of get a better understanding of how iNaturalist hooks up to the recording schemes and how we can get all these strands of data to connect eventually, so that we have a clearer message for the people participating of what happens to the data they contribute. We found that we would have liked to have been able to do more analysis of the people taking part, as Laura did, but I think we're going to have to look into what we can do in future campaigns in terms of finding out whether the people clicking links in Twitter posts are actually joining the iNaturalist project, whether they're becoming members of iNaturalist as a result of the project. But really the lesson learned here is just an innovative approach to attracting social media users to iNaturalist to reach those new audiences, especially the younger audiences who are on social media, because they're posting photos online all the time. So we don't feel there's any reason why we can't kind of encourage them to take photos and submit them to iNaturalist. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. And happy to try and answer any questions. And I think Laura is as well. And we've got Chris from the museum.
Brilliant, thanks, Jess. That's really interesting to kind of get understanding of what, you know, two projects there, that one worked really well and then the other one wasn't so much, which is partly out of control. So, but it is all useful feedback for others. So, has there anyone got any questions about that project in particular? Or,
I've got a comment. It's Mandy speaking for everybody else. I was quite interested in your Fat Spider fortnight stats, Jess, where photos posted on social media, that the majority were to Facebook. I was really surprised by that. It was sort of way ahead of Twitter and Instagram. So given what you've just said about looking at new ways to attract audiences through social media, yeah, it's just something that I'm interested in from the MBN Trust point of view as well. So
I will say that we do have a very active Facebook group for the Angela Marmont Centre for UK Biodiversity. So I imagine a lot of those were posted to that group who are already engaged with biology, with well, a lot of them biological recording, but also people who are interested in natural history and just want some species identification a lot of the time.
okay.
Yeah. And that's another thing I didn't point out, the difference between fat spiders and the slime search is that with fat spiders, we kind of realise on reflection it was useful to have chosen a species that just people come across every day without even having to try to look for them. Whereas we understand that snails and slugs aren't, so, you know, you don't have a snail just crawling across your floor in the way that you would having a spider just drop down from your ceiling. So we did try, when we extended it by a week, we did try to emphasize the need to actually go out and hunt for them and different ways and like how to approach it. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Can't see any more questions, Giselle.
thank you very much. So one of the things I wanted to do now, was sort of find out from people who, if you've got projects running, what you found, what help advice you might want on your projects. Is there anything particular around this area that you would like to know or share? I mean, especially if there's people who've got projects they want to share and what's gone well, that would be great. If there's anyone, it's all gone quiet. No one wants to volunteer anything they're doing? No. Oh, there's a oh, who's that?
I'll just, it's me.
So,
oh, sorry. No, sorry.
Ben, yeah.
Ben Rowson's got his hand up.
I did have, but I think that other guy beat me to it, so I don't
No,
mind.
you can go first, Ben.
I was just wondering. Thanks, Jess, for a good summary, and I agree with her about a lot of the points she made about the slime search. It was unlucky in numerous ways at once, but I'm a specialist, and so I was trying to guide people towards the rarest species, and so we did make things difficult for ourselves, perhaps. I just wondered if there's anything else anyone had to say about City Nature Challenge. And somebody mentioned that all the UK, there's an overall UK City Nature Challenge project. So will records be automatically gathered by that if you're submitting them to one of the other iNaturalist projects?
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, the way that I think the thing that we found with projects with iNaturalist, which is great, is that especially, and this is like on a micro level, but also on the macro as well, is that we can pitch things like parks in South Bristol are doing better than parks in North Bristol or whatever. And so that like we can have a project within the wider Bristol project, likewise with the national project, which is gathering data for the whole of the UK. It doesn't, basically all of that data will be within wherever you are over the UK of those 4 days. There's people who might not even know they're taking part in City Nature Challenge, but are using iNaturalist. That data will still be going to the UK projects basically as well. So you don't need to like sign up saying that you are definitely taking part in that project. Likewise, if you're taking part in, say, Liverpool, that data which is going into the Liverpool data is also going to be in the project for the UK data as well.
What I would add to that is the City Nature Challenge originally started off as a competition, but for something that happened, it's now a collaborative exercise. So in previous years, they've collated a number of people taking part and a number of observations. So over the weekend, what we want is people to join the projects, and so that record is counted. So we know that X number of people took part, 20,000 observations were made of so many species, and that's part of the overall City Nature Challenge kind of stats, the tally, that this is what we've achieved. And by having that information, you know, we can say as a UK, we can show growth on growth. But irrespective of that, that data will still go through the data flow route, through downloaded by the BRC, through iRecord. So even if people haven't positively joined a project or know they're taking part, that data will still flow through. But it's, if people are doing the City Nature Challenge, we want people to kind of positively express as well, you know, their engagement in it by joining a project, because one of the advantages of running a project and have a project is you can send out journal posts, so you can connect with people who signed up. So if you're trying to build that kind of community or get people engaged initially working in a local park and they're part of the group, you can kind of target them and say, you know, well, you enjoyed that, you know, next week we're going to be doing this, or, you know, come and join us in September when we're doing that. So that's sort of the benefit of having a project, and sort of getting people to sign up. Okay. Stuart, you had your hand up before. Did you want to? Were you?
It was only because no one else was pointing out the projects they're doing, and I was just going to say that we're, once again, we did last September, actually, we did a Europe-wide Bioblitz as well, similar to City Nature Challenge, and we're doing that again in September. And we found that a really useful kind of lead on, that obviously this City Nature Challenge happens at the beginning of the year, that also there's some kind of international type thing happening in September as well, kind of comparing records, and it's a follow-on point that people can kind of join in on. And that's not basically, it's basically the project is, here is the map of Europe, and seeing what kind of comes out of that.
Great. Leon.
Hello, sorry. Was you asking if anyone had got examples of projects they were working on? I was writing an email at the time. I was trying to multitask, so
Yeah. If you want to share anything, if you've got a project you want to share.
Yeah, I'll just, in that case then, I'd be happy to, I can share my screen.
Yeah.
it's not giving me an option at the moment to share.
Your camera's off at the moment. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Let me try.
Yes, I can see you now.
Okay, it's not. For some reason my Teams isn't giving me an option to share anything. I'll just talk it through very quickly. We've basically set up a map of Somerset. So this is all to do with the future state of nature work that we're doing. And what we've actually done is we pull in all of the iNaturalist data for Somerset through the API. And then we're loading up maps for each of the parishes within Somerset. And basically the iNaturalist data is then overlaid with our ecological networks, which is the existing mapping work we've got that underpins the local nature recovery strategy. But essentially, we're kind of gradually building up a number of parishes that have got environmental or community groups, setting them up on iNaturalist with a place and a project for their parish. And then the species data can overlap with the habitat data through our own maps. And they can use that as a tool to kind of engage with drawing down funding to do nature recovery or climate work and things like that. So it's been a really useful tool for kind of helping to engage with local communities.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I mean, are you able to share the link to that? So we can...
I can, yeah, I can do it. I'll pop it in the chat. It's not HTTPS. It's not secure, but it's fine.
And is that to the website or to the iNat project?
Oh, that's to the website. So that's
Right.
where the actual iNaturalist data is being pulled to. But I mean, I can share a link for one of the iNaturalist projects as well.
Yeah, just so people can see what that'd be great.
It's just a really nice way for people to be able to get real-time feedback on the species data they collect and how it looks within their local area.
Yeah, because say sometimes it's that thing about people not knowing what the use is, or say, yeah, I've taken all these pictures of snails or spiders, and actually saying this really is going to help in your local area.
Yeah,
That's...
and we're also going to be using it for our 30 Days Wild with the Wildlife Trust. So all of the data recording is going to be done through iNaturalist, like Bioblitz projects. I'll just get a link for this. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Leon. Wonderful. John.
Hi, going back to what you were saying about sort of trying to create community with a project. Is there a means of telling people that their observation has actually made it into a collection project?
Do you mean a collection project on iNaturalist, or did you mean like just sort of make its way to the, say, the MBA Atlas, for example?
No, I mean on iNaturalist.
The way projects work is that they are a filtering, so people wouldn't necessarily know unless they looked at their observation. If they look at their observation, it will show on there what projects that observation has gone to, if that makes sense. If someone else wants to chat or talk, I can be having a look for an example and bring that up. So, but otherwise I'm going to go quiet. So if someone else wants to,
If one did want to do that, then it would be really up to the sort of project management to look at the individual observations and to contact them via iNat to say, you know, thank you for putting your observation in. This is helping us in Wembury or whatever, and you might like to join our become a member of our project and learn more about it.
Yeah, you could do that, because through iNaturalist you could set up a project which includes all the area you want to include. So someone's just put you can manually message people, but that's why I say with the projects, if you get that impetus going, ask people to actually join the project, then you can create a journal post and that will go out to everyone. So if people, but one of the things is sort of with that, it's a social media to say to people, it's there on your app, have a look at activity tab on your app, and then under activity tab, you look at the news, you can see the journal posts coming through, and also encourage people to go and look on the website as well, because it will appear on their dashboard. So
Sorry, where's the activity tab?
Okay, can Mandy, are you able to just facilitate the discussion a bit so I can?
Yeah,
Because I can't answer and.
Yeah, no problem. No, I was about to
thank
leap
you.
in there. So a couple
Thank
of
you.
people are commenting. You picked up on about the one you can manually message people, and apparently you do get notifications from iNaturalist to say that your observation has been used by a given project. I don't know whether you have to click something to get those notifications. I'm assuming you perhaps do, Leon. I don't know whether you could expand a bit further on that. Do you know if you have to click something?
I've certainly not clicked anything. I mean, it's like
okay.
if I've done a butterfly observation, it will say that a particular butterfly project has used that observation or collected it into their project or whatever. It just kind of pops up as a. But I've certainly not gone into the settings and actually selected for.
Okay. That sounds straightforward then. And apparently it does show on each observation if that observation has gone to GBIF as well, which people will probably be interested in as well. Global Biodiversity Information Facility, for those who don't know the acronym. Does that help, John?
Yes, yeah, I think it does. Thanks. It's given me some things to have a play with anyway.
Okay, great.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't seem to find the ability to share my screen at the moment. But if you go into, if you're on the app, if you're in the app, and let me start again. Right, so go. I was trying to do two things at once. And depending on your app, you might have three lines in the top left. I've got Android, and if you click on that, your menu comes up, and one of those is activity. So and then with that you can, if you've got anything, or
I'm looking at it on a computer screen, not a phone.
So it will be on your dashboard. Let me just, why can't I share my screen at the moment?
I'm just checking back in chat. Okay, so yeah, just a bit more information. If I don't know whether everybody can see the chat, it's a good way of following some of these comments. The observation is research grade, so that actually comes up when it's reached research grade. It can now be used for research and featured on other websites and will be featured on GBIF. Thanks for that, Ross.
I'm trying to share my screen. Can people see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the agenda at the moment. You've got
right, it's in the wrong one then. Right, can anyone see that now? Can I see iNaturalist?
Not fully. No, it's got, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay, so on your dashboard, if you go to dashboard, you'll see activity and if people have added anything. So I'm going to scroll down a bit because there's been a lot of activity. And this comes up on my dashboard, and these are project posts where it says Hidden Nature in Nottingham. So these are come from journal posts of projects I belong to. So they notify me of something. So if I go to a project, and you can create project journals. So these journals you can create, and they will go to everyone who's a member of that project. So in this group, there's 21 people who are a member, so everyone in there will be notified of an update. So it will, if people are using the website, then it would appear on their dashboard. If you're using the app, then you need to go in and under the 3 lines and look for activity, and then look for news, and then you'll see it there as well. So that's no, someone going to say something then? No. The other thing I'd assume as well, is whether people know how to set up projects. Is that something most people know how to do? This is the project page. I can't see the chat at the moment, Mandy, so if there is anything in the chat, I can't.
Yeah, don't worry, I've got my eye on it.
Yeah, so for setting up a project, things to go here. This project page as well, we can sort of change the project. So there's, at the moment, I've got this carousel, and one's showing the global project for the City Nature Challenge. There's a Bristol project there, just and one they're going off. People are recording it in the Ukraine, which is amazing at the moment. But if you want to start a project, go to the project page, and the main two projects that you can start or work at is collection projects, which basically bring together all observations based on a set of criteria that you choose, or umbrella project, which is basically a collection of different projects which you can bring together. So because I can't do that now. So a collection project is something like this, which is just had a from 2020 set timeline of the observations of species, how many observations were made, how many species, how many people took part. You can find statistics, that's all there, so that anyone can set up a project to bring all the information together from where you are. The only thing would say is that these projects at the moment you might be finding restricted because this Nature Challenge happening. iNaturalists are asking people not to kind of go in and do a lot of changes at the moment, but so after City Nature Challenge is over, be able to do a lot more. And an example of an umbrella project, if I can find one now, is those projects. Is in 2021. This is the an umbrella project of the cities that took part. So the leaderboard in that, and you can see Birmingham, Black Country, had the most observations with over 9,000 observations, and then it goes down and you can see who's taken part. But also it's worth looking, you can also see the number of species. So although Birmingham Black Country had 9,000 observations, actually Brighton and East Down recorded the most number of species, and Bristol and Bath had the most people taking part. So it's kind of useful to kind of get an understanding of what's happening, and you can do this for any sort of project. This is obviously City Nature Challenge, but if you want to bring together projects that compare, say maybe you have certain areas in your sort of parks in your area, or you've set up different projects for, say, competing schools or something like that, you can bring them all together in a leaderboard. So it's kind of quite nice as a way to sort of see how you're doing, and also perhaps year on year compare what you're doing as well. Has anyone got any questions about that?
No hands, nothing in chat at the moment.
No. Yeah, so okay. I've gone back. Hopefully you're not sharing my screen anymore.
No.
No. Send you everyone into silence. Right. Okay. So is there any general questions that people have about projects or anything? No, I just need to take a bit of water. Hold on. Okay, so hopefully people then are quite happy about projects and what to use them for, so that's great. So we're here if you want to ask any more questions. Right, well, I'm going to stop recording now because the next bit I was going to just do was some updates, which probably won't do. So if you just